Just a bit of a quick rundown on, I guess, the assembly and design of this death trap. Here's the heart of the beast. Got this from a very kind person on Facebook Marketplace for free. He may have been getting rid of it because the rim's a little bit bent there. That's the only defect I can really see. It's a tubed tire, so it still holds air just fine, still works just fine, runs straight enough for me. I don't have any issues with it. It comes with a factory drum brake. I haven't got this one hooked up yet, but eventually what I will do is rock a bolt through there and then have my little pull rod connected to that and a bike handle cable brake. So only got to push that far. The drum brake is actually works really well. What I've done for now is just to mount this. The wheel didn't come with any nuts on the like these shafts are threaded coming out, and then they got like a little flat spot on it, just to prevent it from spinning. There were no nuts, and my quest to Home Depot was unsuccessful to get some nuts for it. So, but conveniently while I was there, I did find this, which is not solid rod, it's a tube, and the internal diameter of the tube was just perfect that it actually kind of threaded on the thread side on this. Now, this side is different than this side with the threads. Not 100% sure why they did that. Maybe so you can't put the wheel on backwards on its designed application. Not 100% on that. Anyways, how I mounted it there was I just threaded this chunk of rod onto it, pushed it all the way down, drilled a slightly larger hole on this side that fit onto this little, like, slightly larger piece of metal, part of the hub motor shaft, and then a slightly smaller one, and just welded it straight on there. Now, definitely, should I have bolted it or come up with a better solution? Absolutely. But I was having fun, and so that's what I did. Now I got this. This wheel is lined up dead straight with this swing arm, I suppose. The rest of everything else is crooked everywhere on this piece of equipment, but this is dead straight with this wheel. To that, I welded another chunk of tubing coming across, and then a chunk of tubing coming down. Now you can see how crooked this is. Oh man, it looks kind of straight there. Looks much more crooked in real life. It's also not super straight that way, although the board is also tilting. But you can see the alignment is not great on that. Fun learning how to weld. Doesn't really matter. It's all aligned well enough. On this side, this is the side of the shaft that I use to lock. This is a tab that comes with the kit. It fits over the lock shaft. And then what I've just done is, you can't really see there, cut two slots with a grinder, like this and like this. Slid that on there and just welded this tab. I did in fact grind the galvy off where I was welding before I welded it on there. Got a little bushing here, and it's just perfect that it's got no real space to move around, but it's strong like that. This is all very sturdy, no issues there. This comes straight forward. And originally what I was going to try and do was have this piece of pipe run under the board and kind of fit right in here in between the truck and the bottom of the board. a little bit hard to do with the way that it was aligned, so I decided to just have it run straight like this. I've got a chunk of steel that I've welded down there, and then across. Now this is where all of the power is transferred to the board. It is secured to the board with a couple of carriage bolts running just through the steel and down, but it's butted up right against my truck, my rear truck there. So all of the propulsion from this is transferred right to this point, which is pushed up against the truck, which transfers to the rest of the board. I wanted to give it a little bit more strength. Now, to keep everything straight and to keep the wheel from kind of going like this, fishtailing either way, I've got the arm that continued out. And this was the point where I ran out of metal to use to make this very nice. So instead I crudely cut a couple of chunks of 2x4 and screwed them to the bottom of the board. And then also attach those with carriage bolts. That's all there is mechanically on the board. The front of the board remains just stock normal. These trucks are both too loose. The bushings on them are too loose or worn out or whatever, and they aren't wide enough to handle the additional weight and height and everything else from this whole thing being attached. So even with the trucks tightened up basically as tight as I can, it's still a little bit floppy. That leads us to the electrics. So the electrics for this, we've got the wire coming out of the hub motor. This is a sensored hub motor, so that means that it provides all of the torque right from full stop at any speed. It's got little Hall effect sensors right in the wheel that tells it how far it's turning and what it needs to do and which coils it needs to send power to. That's really nice. It behaves a little bit more predictably at slow speeds, which makes it nice for novice riders like my wife to try and ride it. This is just your cheap Chinese e-bike controller. I got this with no documentation whatsoever and no way to get documentation. I got it actually from the same guy that was giving this hub motor away. He found it in his garage a couple of months later and sent me a message, was like, hey, do you want this too? And I was like, absolutely. Doing a bunch of Googling, I eventually figured that probably what I hoped, and it turned out to be correct. These were the throttle wires. There's these two little here that are self-learn wires that just as part of setup figures out which way the wheel wants to rotate and everything for a sensored motor. And then I've got my ignition wire here, which is just like this little white wire. It's kind of like for a key switch or whatever. Those are the only wires that you actually have to connect something to make the bike run. You have to have your two powers coming in, your motor wires going out, so the 3 phase wires, and then the 5 or whatever Hall wires. You need the 3 throttle wires, and you need from battery voltage. I tried originally just like positive from the Hall sensor. That did not do anything. Battery voltage to the ignition wire. Ignition. It's a freaking electric bike. And she starts right up. This is just a cheap, no-name knockoff, whatever, Hall effect sensor for a throttle. It's a twist throttle. I wanted a thumb throttle, but the e-bike shop that I picked this up from for $20 didn't have that, so it's just a twist throttle. You can actually, if you really want to, hold the grip part in one hand and use the thumb throttle in your other. I don't, because the bike is the skateboard is very sensitive, and even just like a little twitch can send you right off the back of the bike. For power, for testing purposes, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Look at that, it's beautiful. I got 4 M18 batteries that I have zip tied and then electrical taped together, and just crammed this 12 gauge stranded wiring into the battery terminals. I've taped them all up so they don't come apart when they're in the backpack. These 2 batteries are 4 amp hour and are getting pretty dead. These 2 are 4 amp hour batteries. The little one on this side is a 5 amp hour battery. It's got a little bit more in it, and this one's a 9 amp hour battery. The only reason for that is that's what I had kicking around, and you need 4 batteries to make the 72 volts that this thing requires. 72 volts wouldn't be my first choice, but it was free, so I'm not really going to complain about that. This worked. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to take this all apart as soon as this video is over to put these all back in the work vehicle for work on Monday. These just sit in a backpack that I wear when I'm riding. Got wires that run down, power wires through a hole in the backpack, ripped backpack. Power wires right to the thing. No connectors, no anything. This is just proof of concept for now. At some point I'll have a proper power wire connector. Probably a proper... Not sure, I probably won't detach that. I'll probably leave that one to, attached and have a like a little handlebar set with like a brake lever for the drum brake here, and then I can just kind of stand there with both my hands, one of them on the brake, one of them on the throttle, and just kind of ride around like that. It's not ideal, it's not like the remote controls that all the fancy e-bike boards have, but look at the rest of the bike. Freaking skateboard. I keep saying bike because it's a bike hub motor. Anyways, that's all there is to it. It's pretty simple, actually. Yeah, any questions, feel free to ask, and I will do my best to answer. Thanks for watching.